Welcome to your 5th Arduino tutorial. Alright guys, so in this one we're gonna go ahead and cover the for loop. Again, it's just the basic stuff. We're still in the basics. This is only the 5th tutorial. So, last video we covered the if and else statement. So, what better to cover than the for loop, okay? So, this is going to be one of the first examples that doesn't follow like the other ones. It's not quite the same. We don't use the void loop, and we're going to be using the serial instead of LEDs, instead of the good old LED example. So anyways, let's go ahead and start by saying serial begin. Now, just so you guys know, I'm going to go ahead and explain this real quick. Actually, it's capital SERIAL, and then dot BEGIN. And then inside here, you're going to have little brackets, and you're going to put the rate at which it communicates at. So we're going to put 9600. This is the most common rate that you will use. So just go ahead and put that. Chances are it'll work. So anyways, what this means is it's going to allow us to communicate with the serial console in the board, okay? And again, this is a setup thing. It only runs once, okay? So it's serial begin 9600. So this starts and initiates the serial communication between the board and the computer. This allows us to communicate, like send values to the computer. So it's basically like a console. So if we had, if we open up the serial monitor actually it can't. The board isn't plugged in right now. That's why it's not working. You can see down here it's not working. And believe it or not, guys, kind of embarrassing, but my computer doesn't have enough USB ports right now to run my microphone, keyboard, and mouse, and the Arduino, because I have an external hard drive plugged in right now, and I'm uploading a YouTube video from it, and I'm not about to unplug that mess. So when I run this code, I'm going to have to unplug my keyboard real quick and pop the Arduino in. But anyways, take my word for it. I'll show it to you guys here in a minute. This serial monitor is basically, if you write a C code, if you write a C++ code for the console, for the command prompt, and then you know how you run it and it opens up command prompt, it's sort of like that, and it gives you your output. Well, that's what the serial monitor is. You can type to it, and you can also get feedback from it. It'll output stuff. So let's go ahead and look at an example of this with the for loop. Okay, so the for loop is a loop that is basically just like, you know how you have your void loop here and it loops over and over and over again? Well, the for loop is a loop that runs a specified number of times. Now, you guys may be wondering, why am I not typing this in the void loop section? Why am I typing it in the serial setup? Or in the the serial setup. Oh my god, guys. Why am I typing it in the void setup function instead of the void loop? Well, the reason is because if I were to type it in the void loop section, it would run this continuously over and over and over again, and it would pretty much never end. Whereas if I run it in the void setup function, it's just going to run our for loop once and be done. The code will end right there, and it just makes more sense. It'll make a lot more sense. I'll run it in the void loop too, just to show you guys why I didn't do it like that, but first it'll make sense if I show you in the void setup why we're running it in this first. So we run the for loop. The keyword for is what you used to start out with, and then you have these little brackets. These are going to be your little parameters that tell the loop how many times to loop. And then inside here is the code that runs. So basically the for loop is a loop that runs a specified number of times, or runs a piece of code a specified number of times based on what parameters you give it. So it takes 3 arguments. What are the 3 arguments? Well, first off, usually you have an integer, and this is the lower integer. It can be the higher integer too, but let me just kind of show you guys what it does. So let's say int I. Now you can call the integer anything you want, but typically, just for all standard examples, pretty much everyone all the time uses I. I don't know why, but everyone uses I. That's just like the standard. So int I equals 0, and then you put a semicolon in between each argument. Okay, then we're gonna say while I is less than 5, right? And then then your increment is the last argument. So we're gonna put a semicolon after that, and then I plus plus. Okay, so let me explain kind of what this means. So again, the for loop runs a specified number of times. So what you have here is we have this integer I, and it's equal to 0. Okay, this is just an initial value, kind of. And then basically what we have is we say, well, while I is less than 5, loop through this, okay? So I is 0, and then I is less than 5 because it's 0. And what we do is once we run this loop, okay, so we have the initial value 0, we run the loop once because it's less than 5, and then we add plus plus means add 1. And this is your increment value. You could say plus I plus 2, I plus 3, you can say whatever you want, but we're going to increment it by 1 just for, making things easy right now. But anyways, and most of the time that's what you want to increment it by. Most of the time you always increment by 1. So what happens is we have 0, so 0 is less than 5. So what it's going to do is it's going to run your code that you have here in the for loop, and then it's going to add 1 to I. So I is now equal to 1. 1 is still less than 5, so it runs the code again, and then it adds another 1 to I, which now I is equal to 2, and so on and so on. And it keeps just going over and over again until I gets up to 5. So while I is less than 5, this code will run. Once I hits 5, it will not run because I is not less than 5. If I equals 5, it will not run. So as long as I is less than 5, the code will run. You can also do less than or equal to. That way it will actually run if I is equal to 5. You can do greater than or equal to. And you can also do, or greater than, I'm sorry, and then greater than or equal to. So those are usually the common parameters that you'll have in there. So now let's just go ahead and, it'll make more sense when we type this up. So let me go ahead and show this to you guys. What we're going to do is we're going to print out this number I on the serial for each time it loops. So we're going to type SERIAL, oh my gosh, serial, and then dot print PRINT LN. This stands for print line. So what it's going to do is it's just going to print something on a line in the serial console. So what we're going to print is that value, the variable I. So now we're going to see what I is equal to. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to start out I is equal to 0. So okay, I is less than 5. Let's run this code. Right now I again is equal to 0, right? So once this has ran, we're going to go I plus plus. So now I is equal to 1. Okay, 1 is less than 5. So this value I is now 1, and then let's add another 1 to it. So I is equal to 2, and just keeps going. And it prints the value of I for each time. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is unplug my keyboard. Sorry about this, guys. This is quite embarrassing, I'm not going to lie. But I'm going to go ahead and plug my Arduino in now. So now we should have communications. And if we upload to the board, right? Give it a sec, it's still uploading, and then we'll open up, and it's done uploading the serial monitor. So here we can see it prints it out just as we expected. Okay, it prints out it loops 5 times, so it runs this code 5 times here. Okay, where did it go? What the heck? So here we go. It starts out with I, this is the value of I, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, because I started out as equal to 0, and it ran all the way up till it was less than 5. Notice it did not print out the number 5 because 5 is not less than 5. If I were to put equal to, less than or equal to, then it would print the 5. But I unplugged my keyboard, so I can't put the equal sign. So if I put equal to, equal, okay, and then I upload this, then we can see that now it's going to print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now if we go to the serial monitor, give it a sec, and there it is, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, because I prints, it runs this code even when I is equal to 5, because it's less than or equal to, okay? So, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys exactly why we don't want to run this code, or why it wouldn't have been a good example to run it in the for loop. Why did I run it in the void setup? Well, let me just show you again one more time. It runs this once. It runs this for loop once, and then it stops, because the setup just runs once and then stops, right? So if we were to run, so basically it's like running a loop inside a loop. If we ran it inside the void loop, it would do this whole for loop over and over and over again. So let me show you guys just what that looks like. Alright, so we have the for loop that we had previously in the void setup is now in the void loop as well. So let's go ahead and upload this to the board real quick. Compiling, blah, 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 uploading, and okay, it's done. So now if we look at the serial monitor, you can see that it's just going to continuously print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 forever and ever and ever and ever until the world ends. It will not stop. So if I push the reset button on my Arduino, you can see that it stops and then it just keeps going. So no matter what, it's just going to initialize that serial, the serial begin, and then it's just going to run that for loop 0 through 5 and print those out forever. So that's why it was a better idea to do it in the void setup, because it would just print this for loop once. It would just do this loop once and it would just print 0 through 5 one time. By the way, guys, this right here, if you're having trouble, if you are able to upload to your board, let's just say, right, but you're not able to communicate with the actual serial monitor, the console itself, then this baud rate here has to match what you have in your serial begin. So we see you having 9600 here. This has to match here. So if it doesn't match, that's most likely your problem. It will not communicate unless these match. Also, just for future reference for you guys can type to the console here using the send, but that doesn't really do anything in this case because we don't have any code to deal with those parameters quite yet. But just for you guys' reference, I don't know why I said that. But anyways, that's the for loop in a bundle and a little bit of the serial begin. You guys are learning a little bit of serial in this tutorial as well, but that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I just wanted to show you guys the for loop. Next, we'll take a look at the while loop and the do while loop. So that's it for this one, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and like always, guys, have a good one.